Hi everyone! This is our last module for this class. It will be a combination of review exercises and a brief introduction to basic composition. Many of you will eventually take composition classes here at GCC, and you'll get more in-depth instruction in this area, but for now we're going to do an overview of how paragraphs are developed and what we want them to contain. We're going to start with a lesson on finding main ideas. This is important for reading comprehension as well as for learning how to communicate effectively in your own writing. What is the main idea? The main idea is the most important point that the author wants to communicate to you, the reader. There may be many small details, but they all connect in some way to the main idea. For example, if you look at this picture, you will see lots of details. We can see what looks like 3 generations of family members. They're all sitting at a table with food on it. There's a large turkey, which may make us think this is a picture of a Thanksgiving dinner. There's a large candle holder in the background. So there are lots of details, but what they all add up to is the main point, which is that this is a family eating a meal together. It's the same if we look at a paragraph. Each sentence will have specific information and details, and those will all connect to each other to support and communicate the main idea. Let's look at this paragraph. Running is one of the simplest and most effective forms of exercise. All you need is a pair of good shoes and the willingness to start. You don't have to join a gym or pay a personal trainer, and you don't need to learn how to use any equipment. Whether it's a quick jog around the block or a longer run through the park or around a track, running improves cardiovascular health, builds endurance, and strengthens muscles, all while letting you enjoy the outdoors. Now, one point that is very important to note is that you can often find a sentence in a paragraph that very directly tells you what the main idea is, and quite often that sentence is the first one. This is called the topic sentence, and we'll discuss those in a different video. If we look at this paragraph, we can see that the very first sentence makes a clear statement about running being one of the simplest and most effective forms of exercise. As a reader, I have an instinct that this sentence will prove to be the main point of the paragraph. Just like when I looked at the picture a minute ago, my first thought was, that's a picture of a family eating a meal together. So I have this instinct, but I'm going to need to read the rest of the paragraph to determine if my instinct is correct. I look at the next sentence, and I see that it's focusing on how simple it is to start. All I need is shoes and the willingness to start. That directly connects back to the first sentence, saying running is simple. The next sentence also focuses on the simplicity of running by focusing on all of the things I don't need, like a gym, a personal trainer, or equipment. That means this sentence is also connecting to and supporting this idea of running being a simple form of exercise. The next sentence focuses on the benefits of running, specifically improved cardiovascular health, building endurance, and strengthening muscles. These 3 examples connect to the second part of that first sentence that is about running being effective. So I can now confirm that instinct of mine that the first sentence was the main idea of the paragraph. While each sentence makes its own point, each sentence is directly related to the first sentence or the topic sentence. Let's look at another paragraph. Marie Curie was one of the most accomplished scientists in history. Together with her husband Pierre, she discovered radium, an element widely used for treating cancer, and studied uranium and other radioactive substances. She was the first woman to be given a professorship at the world-famous university, the Sorbonne. In 1911, she received the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for isolating radium. The first question to ask yourself about this paragraph is if there is a sentence that identifies the main idea. We can see that the first sentence makes a very specific claim, so that's a good place to start. As we read the rest of the paragraph, we see that each sentence is giving information about one of Marie Curie's many accomplishments. So by the end of the paragraph, we can see that she was a very accomplished scientist. This confirms the claim of the first sentence, which was the main idea. Now, not every paragraph is going to have a sentence at the very beginning announcing the main idea. Sometimes that sentence is located somewhere else in the paragraph, and sometimes there isn't a sentence at all. When there isn't a sentence that directly announces the main idea, we as the readers need to figure out the main idea based on our comprehension of the paragraph as a whole. Let's look at another paragraph. The baseball game started at 6:30, but we didn't get there until after 7. It took us an hour and a half to get there because of really bad traffic. When we got there, we had to park very far away from the stadium because we arrived late. My family was really hungry, so I got in line to get food. I had to wait 30 minutes in that line, and everything was so expensive. Once I got to our seats where everyone was watching the game, I realized that it had started raining. We sat in the cold, wet stadium watching our team lose the game. We ended up leaving early. Overall, I did not enjoy going to the baseball game. Looking at this paragraph, we can see immediately that the first sentence is not the main idea. The whole paragraph is not going to be about what time the game started. So we have to read further and try to figure out what the main idea is. What we notice as we read is that everything the author wrote about is negative. There was bad traffic. Parking was far away. The food line was long, and the food was expensive. It was raining. The team was losing. Before we even finish the paragraph, it's very clear that the main idea is that this was not a fun experience. And then we get that confirmed in the last sentence, which clearly states the main idea that the author did not enjoy going to the baseball game. Here's one last paragraph. I never gardened as a child, even though my mother loved to work in her garden. I was always afraid of bugs. Since moving into my house several years ago, I have started learning how to take care of a garden. Importantly, I learned that wearing gloves makes it a lot easier to deal with the bugs. I find that clearing out weeds is very relaxing and also makes me feel like I've accomplished something. I picked a lot of sweet-smelling flowers, which encourages me to breathe deeply. This is unintentionally very stress-relieving. Even when I'm busy with work and other responsibilities, I make sure I take some time every week to work in my garden. If I end up spending the whole day inside working, I know that I did manage to get some fresh air during my gardening time. This paragraph doesn't have a sentence anywhere in it that directly states the main idea. That means we have to depend on our reading skills to figure out the main idea. The beginning of the paragraph is about the author's history with gardening and why they didn't like it. But that isn't what the entire paragraph is about, so we can't say that's the main idea. If we look closely at the rest of the paragraph, we'll see that every time the author mentions something they do in the garden, they connect it to the effect it has on them. Weeding is relaxing and gives a sense of accomplishment. The flowers smell good, which encourages deep breaths. Being in the garden allows the writer to be outside for a while when they are often stuck inside working. The paragraph isn't about what the author learned how to do in the garden, it's about the benefits the author receives from gardening. And that is our main idea. So when we are trying to determine the main idea, we should do the following. First, look to see if there is a sentence that clearly identifies the main idea for us. Of course, we're always going to confirm that it is the main idea by looking at the other sentences and seeing if and how they connect to that sentence. We need to remember that the main idea sentence may not be the first sentence of the paragraph. And if we don't see a sentence that is obviously stating the main idea, we're going to look at the paragraph as a whole and see how the sentences are all connecting to each other to communicate that main idea. And now you're done with this lesson. Take some time to review. The PowerPoint is available in the module after this video if you don't want to watch the video again. And when you're ready, take the Finding Main Ideas quiz.